Picture this, a limestone cave on a remote Indonesian island. The air is thick, humid. An archaeologist lifts a UV light to the wall, and there it is, a handprint, reddish ochre against gray stone. Not just any handprint. This one is 67,800 years old, minimum. It's the oldest known artwork created by a human being anywhere on Earth. And it wasn't found in France, not Spain, not Africa. It was found on the island of Muna in Southeast Asia, a place that most history textbooks have never mentioned. For decades, we've told ourselves a story that human creativity, real art, symbolic thinking, began in Ice Age Europe, the caves of Lascaux, Chauvet, Altamira. That story is wrong, and this discovery proves it. The evidence has been hiding in plain sight on a cave wall in Indonesia for nearly 70,000 years. Today, we're going to explore what this handprint tells us about who we are, where we came from, and how we've underestimated our ancestors for far too long. Let's set the scene. 67,000 years ago, the world looked completely different. Glaciers locked up so much water that sea levels were 100 meters lower than today. Indonesia wasn't an archipelago of isolated islands. It was a massive peninsula, connected land masses stretching like stepping stones toward a continent that had never seen a human footprint, Australia. Modern humans had left Africa tens of thousands of years earlier. They'd spread through the Middle East, into India, down through mainland Asia. But then they hit water. Even with lowered sea levels, reaching Australia required something unprecedented: deliberate ocean crossings. Multiple voyages across stretches of open water where you couldn't see the other side. Think about what that means. These weren't people stumbling onto new lands by accident. They planned. They coordinated. They built watercraft. They looked at the horizon and decided to cross it. And somewhere along that route on a limestone island we now call Muna, one of them paused, pressed their hand against a cave wall, and left a mark. The hand stencil was discovered in Liang Metanduno cave on Muna Island, part of Indonesia's Sulawesi region. It dates to at least 67,800 years ago. That makes it 16,600 years older than the previous record holder, another hand stencil from the same Sulawesi region that had already shocked the archaeological world. To put that in perspective, this handprint is older than any rock art in Europe, older even than the hand stencils in Spain that some researchers believe Neanderthals created. The dating method is uranium series analysis. Scientists examined mineral crusts, tiny layers of calcium carbonate that formed over the pigment after the art was made. Because those minerals formed after the artwork, they provide what scientists call a minimum age. The art itself could be even older. 67,800 years is the floor, not the ceiling. The technique itself is remarkable. Our ancestors created this art by placing a hand flat against the stone and blowing pigment, probably through a hollow reed, around it. When the hand was removed, what remained was a negative image, a silhouette outlined in red ochre, a signature from someone who lived nearly 70 millennia ago. But here's what makes this particular stencil unique. One finger appears deliberately narrowed-shaped to look pointy, almost like an animal claw. It's a style found nowhere else on Earth. Researchers have documented hundreds of hand stencils across Sulawesi. Many share this claw finger style, a regional artistic tradition that apparently lasted for thousands of years. Was it symbolic, a clan marker, a representation of transformation, human becoming animal? We don't know. But the consistency suggests it meant something specific to these people. This discovery rewrites our understanding of human migration. If modern humans were creating sophisticated art in Indonesia nearly 70,000 years ago, they were already there, already established. And that has major implications for Australia. The oldest confirmed evidence of human presence on that continent dates to around 65,000 years ago. This hand stencil is older. The researchers put it directly. This finding makes it considerably more likely that modern humans reached Australia at least 65,000 years ago via the Indonesian islands. Think about the cognitive abilities required. Ocean crossings need planning. They require communication sophisticated enough to coordinate a voyage no one had ever attempted. Likely, they required language. Symbolic behavior, including art, storytelling, and the marking of place and identity, was already well established in Southeast Asia as humans spread across the world. The hand stencil wasn't just decoration, it was communication, identity, possibly ritual. 67,000 years later, we're still reading the message, even if we can't fully decode it. For over a century, European caves dominated our understanding of prehistoric art. When the painted bison of Altamira were discovered in 1879, they were initially dismissed as fakes. The idea that ancient people could create such sophisticated art seemed impossible. It took decades for the scientific establishment to accept what they were seeing. And once accepted, European caves became the standard. Chauvet, Lascaux, Kosker. The assumption was that artistic ability emerged, or at least matured, in Ice Age Europe. Southeast Asia was an afterthought. When rock art was found there, it was often assumed to be younger, copied from European traditions that supposedly came first. That assumption was Eurocentric, and it was wrong. The tide began turning in 2014, when researchers dated a hand stencil in Sulawesi to around 40,000 years ago, comparable to the oldest European art. Then in 2019, a scene depicting hunters and animals was dated to 44,000 years ago. It was briefly the oldest narrative art ever found. In 2024, another Sulawesi image was redated to over 51,000 years ago. Each discovery pushed the timeline back further, and then came this hand stencil, 67,800 years. The challenge to Eurocentric assumptions couldn't be clearer. Modern humans weren't waiting to reach Europe before they became artists. They were artists long before they left Africa. The cognitive capacity for symbolic expression traveled with our ancestors wherever they went. It wasn't something new they developed. It was something fundamental they carried. So what does this mean for how we understand history? Consider this. The stories we tell about human origins have often reflected our own biases more than the evidence. It may be worth reconsidering what you learned about prehistoric art and human evolution. The textbooks are catching up, but slowly. The newest discoveries haven't made it into most curricula yet. If you are interested in digging deeper, the original Nature paper is worth exploring. The methodology section shows exactly how these incredible dates were established. It's open science at its best. You might also consider visiting Indonesia's Sulawesi region if you're planning travel. Several cave sites are becoming recognized heritage destinations, though access requires respect and responsibility. And here's something to reflect on. 67,000 years ago, someone pressed their hand against a cave wall and made a mark that said, "I was here, I existed, remember me." That impulse hasn't changed in 70 millennia. We still make art. We still mark our presence. We're still trying to communicate something that outlasts our bodies. If this kind of story resonates with you, the hidden histories that challenge what we thought we knew, hit subscribe. We explore moments like this every week. The debate around this discovery isn't over, by the way. Some researchers urge caution. Uranium series dating depends on minerals that formed after the art. What if they formed much later? If those crusts grew thousands of years after the handprint was made, the art might be younger than claimed. The 67,800-year date is a minimum, not an absolute. Other researchers point out that multiple dating studies across Sulawesi have consistently produced ancient dates. The pattern is robust, even if individual samples carry uncertainty. What's not in dispute is the broader pattern. Southeast Asia has emerged as a center of early human artistic expression. Multiple sites, multiple techniques, deep antiquity across the region. And there's more to come. Thousands of Sulawesi caves remain unexplored. Each one potentially holds artwork that could push the dates back further or reveal entirely new traditions. The research team is continuing their work. New dating technologies are being developed. Every year, the picture becomes clearer and more humbling. The claw finger style remains a mystery. Was it a representation of animal spirits, a marker of clan identity, a form of personal signature? The evidence doesn't tell us yet. What we do know is that it was deliberate. Across hundreds of stencils, the same technique appears, bending a finger just so to create that distinctive pointed shape. This was a choice, a tradition. Imagine being the person who made that first stencil, standing in a cave 67,000 years ago, the world outside full of dangers and wonders, and you pick up a reed, fill your mouth with ochre, and blow. You're leaving something behind. Something that says you existed. and you have no idea that 67 millennia later, someone will find it and understand that nothing about you was primitive. A hand stencil on an Indonesian cave wall, 67,800 years old, the oldest known artwork made by a human being, found not in Europe but in Southeast Asia. It challenges what we thought we knew about where creativity came from. It connects us to ancestors who crossed oceans and made marks that lasted. And it reminds us that being human, fully, beautifully human, is older than we ever imagined. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep looking at the walls. You never know what stories they're holding.